Prior to that beginning.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
And I'm just saying,
So back to square one.
say you have a lot.
Before space and time existed, what existed prior to that?
I feel that you're not really trying to understand
I
what
am.
I'm saying.
I am. But I'm not getting the
Very
answer.
quick thinking.
I'm not getting the answer that you are actually insisting that matter existed before space and time, which have insisted many times. I want to know this matter which existed before space and time.
I think actually that was quite a good question.
So I expect a good answer then. Go on.
Help clarify my ideas.
I expect a good answer.
Is before space and time
Yeah.
is completely meaningless.
Why?
You know, you can't say, here's the thing, if there's no time, a thing can't be created.
Good. So now you agree with me. When I tell you that the universe had a beginning, you have come again full circle and finally agreeing with me that before space and time, yes, you cannot have anything.
No, I don't.
Except God in my case, by the way.
Yeah,
Just to
yeah.
clarify.
Okay.
Go on.
No, I don't. I think you can have a thing.
What is that thing?
Exists,
What is that
which
thing?
is a huge amount of energy.
Again, you see, you have come to energy.
Yeah.
And this energy is a particle, right? According to you.
No.
What form is that energy in then? Before space and time existed, I want to know what form was that energy in before any space and time existed.
I couldn't answer you that question
So on what basis are you saying it existed?
because it couldn't be created or destroyed. Because it already exists. We know that there's lots
No, but
of energy. in
you see,
the
this
universe.
this first law of thermodynamics
Yeah.
applies to energy already existing.
Yes.
So you cannot create new energy, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
It's not like this energy always existed before space and time. No one makes that statement as far as I know. And if you can prove me wrong, then you are more than welcome to. So unless you show me scientific evidence or scientific even testimony from a credible scientist, I want to know if energy even existed before space and time existed. Because you see, in order for energy to exist, it needs to occupy some sort of space and time.
No.
No?
That's what I'm trying to say.
So give me what energy occupies no space.
Okay. We're back to where we were.
In a way, yeah.
Goals.
Because you seem to be backtracking all the time, somehow. Yes. Because earlier you said the universe was eternal, and then you came to a singularity. Earlier you said that, matter always existed, and now still you haven't provided any evidence from science to prove that before space and time matter existed.
Yes. I don't think matter is dependent on space-time. For instance, there are particles that don't have any dimension. They exist.
Where do they exist?
They exist,
In space or outside space?
but they themselves have no dimension.
Are you going to answer my question? I'm not asking about the dimension. I'm asking this particle which you believe doesn't have dimension, does it exist in a space or not?
It exists in a framework like space.
In a space, so it does exist in space-time. Continue.
You haven't really understood the point I'm making.
That's what I'm asking you.
Okay. Say
Does
you have
this-
a ruler.
Yeah, no, there's this particle. Let me rephrase the question. Does this particle which has no dimension, does it exist outside space and time or within space and time? Within space and time. So once again I ask you the question. What existed before space and time?
What existed before space-time didn't exist.
No, I'm saying
It
before.
can't exist.
Before space and time,
There is no before time. Do you know what I mean? If you believe, and this I'm only going what scientists tell us,
Okay.
that space-time had a beginning,
Yes,
then the idea of what happened before that is kind of a meaningless question.
absolutely.
Okay.
Now the next question.
Yeah,
Did matter
yeah.
begin to exist or always existed?
It existed throughout all time. There was never a time when matter didn't exist.
But
That's
time.
actually a better way of putting it.
Okay, let me now ask you the third question. Did time begin to exist?
Yes.
Did matter begin to exist?
No.
But you said throughout time.
Yeah.
So it has to be within the framework of time and space.
No, it doesn't.
Why not? You just said it has, earlier you just said like a minute ago,
Yeah.
that it exists within the framework of space and time. Since time and space began to exist, it couldn't have existed before that, could it?
No, it could have existed, but time didn't exist.
So it's not in the framework of space and time.
How can I put this? It's kind of like if you had a balloon,
Yeah.
and there's just a balloon. That's all there is. There's
Yeah.
a balloon, and that just exists.
Yes.
And you just have to accept that that exists.
Is that-
And then you blow it
Yeah.
up. I know that the balloon actually has size, but imagine it was an incredibly tiny balloon
Yeah.
that you couldn't even detect.
Yeah.
Or had no dimension.
Can you see it? Can you see that balloon?
To make the analogy correct,
Yes.
you'd have to say that you can't see the balloon.
You cannot see the balloon.
Because
Wait. Did you say you can or you cannot see the balloon?
to make the analogy correct, you can't see the balloon.
You cannot or can?
Can't. Oh, actually,
Cannot.
No, sorry, I beg your pardon. When you say see, it means could you bounce a photon off it? And yes, you could if you bounce a photon. So you
Okay.
could see
So it is in space and time then.
No.
You know, you really are not thinking this through, are you?
I am.
I'm sorry you are not.
I'm sorry, but you can't. You're
For
not
you to say that the
qualified to
photon
tell me-
bounces off,
Yes.
does that happen inside space also?
Yeah, I see what they did.
You see, that's why I'm saying you're not thinking this through.
No.
Your own analogies fall
No.
in your own examples. I'm sorry to say this. Okay, so going back, time and space as a beginning, and matter exists within the framework of time and space, but then you at the same time says it always existed. Doesn't make sense, does it?
It does make sense.
I'm sorry, you really are not thinking this through. When you're saying, look, when you say the word always,
You can knock down my ideas, but you can't just say, I somehow am an authority that can say what
I never said I'm the authority. I'm sorry to
But
say
you're
this.
talking as if you were.
No, I'm not. I'm saying using your own example, using your own analogy, using your own statement, you are contradicting yourself. Yes, you are.
To this balloon. You have the
Your balloon is a very bad example. Because in order for you to call it a balloon,
Yeah.
yes, you need to see it. You need to observe it or at least measure it.
No, you really honestly.
How will you verify there's a balloon then? If you cannot see it, if you cannot observe it, and you cannot measure it, how will you know that the balloon even exists?
I could answer that, but I don't think you're interested.
Okay, go on. I'm listening to your response. Let's see if you can respond to that question.
As you understand, there are point particles and can bounce photons off them.
Do they exist?
The point particles,
How do you know that the photon has bounced? How do you know that?
because you can see it.
So you can see it. If you can see something, then it occupies space.
No,
Honestly, this is pointless, you know. Now we are just quibbling over something which is logical, you know. Which if you can observe, measure something, or you can see something, then it obviously occupies space.
it doesn't. Could I give you another example?
How can you How can you observe it if there is no space? Even you wouldn't exist without space.
No. You're confusing two different things.
Which two different things? Space or your existence? Which one am I confusing?
The idea of a point particle
Yeah.
is that it doesn't have any size at all. You can't.
Actually, I don't buy that, but carry on. Yeah.
Okay. Actually,
Where does it exist if it doesn't have any size? Where does it exist?
let me give you an example. Like, say you have a ruler, and then you have a point on that ruler.
Yeah.
Say 6 inches. If you look at it very closely, you can see that there's actually a line. So it's not really 6 inches would be technically in the very middle of that line. And if you blew that up even bigger, you still have a light. You still have a big black, and it'd be the middle, the middle, and there's a left and a right. But a point, and this I'm really quite sure about, a point, the whole point of a point is that there isn't a left or a right of that point, it's just a point. I tell you, read that Brian Cox, there's quite a good book about.
Where does this point exist?
Right.
Outside space and time or within?
No, but the ruler is space-time. So we're just talking about not the whole universe, but just a single particle in the universe.
Yeah, I'm talking about a single particle as well.
So it exists at, say, 6 inches along this ruler.
Okay, listen to my question again. Listen to my question. This point, which has no dimension, does it exist in space and time?
Yeah, listen on the right side, 6
Forget your ruler for a minute. Forget your ruler.
No,
I'm just talking about a single
I
point.
think we'll get confused if we...
Okay, you want to use the ruler? That's fine.
Yeah.
So it exists in space and time.
Yes.
Good, so what's the point? I'm talking about the same thing. In order for this matter to exist, it requires space and time.
No, it doesn't.
No, so show me an example where you have matter but no space and time. Give me an example, go on. In fact, even you wouldn't exist to observe that. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So even if you didn't exist to observe that, how would you conclude, I don't know which logic, by which logic would you conclude that this point exists without space and time?
You could agree that the idea of a point, like on the ruler, 6 inches, is not. There's no sort of left of 6 inches.
Forget about left and right. Forget about dimension. Forget about the height. Forget about everything. All the dimensions do not exist. Forget that for a minute. What I'm asking you is that with regards to a point which you can observe, which you can see, which you can measure, where does it exist?
Half a sentence and you interrupt.
No, because you're repeating yourself, isn't it?
No,
Are you going to say anything new from what you already said?
If I can get to the second sentence.
My friend,
interrupt.
My friend, are you going to tell me something new from what you said a minute ago?
Interrupting me, please.
No, I'm not interrupting you because you're making new points. I'm interrupting because you're repeating yourself.
No, what happens, this is what happens, is I start saying something and you interrupt.
Are you going to tell me a new point, yes or no? Are you going to make a new point?
Am I allowed to get to, say, 3 sentences?
Yes, a new 3 sentences.
No, I'll have to go back.
Are you going to repeat yourself?
I will have to go to get to the, if you just sit back and let me speak.
I did already.
No, you didn't.
Are you going to repeat yourself, yes or no?
I'm going to tell you what I wanted to tell you, but you keep interrupting.
Okay, so you have not said these 3 points earlier at all.
No.
No, you haven't. Okay, let's see what's new. Go on. I'm listening. I hope it's not your repeat, but go on. I have a feeling it's going to be a repeat.
The first bit's a repeat. You got the ruler.
Yeah, the ruler.
You come along the ruler.
Yeah, you got a point.
6 inches.
That's fine.
Which doesn't have a left or right.
Yeah.
There's no dimension.
That's fine.
It's just a point.
Yeah.
That's what we call like
Go
a
on.
point particle.
Yeah.
And that exists along the ruler.
Yes.
And it can interact. It can has a field round about it, and it can interact with other particles. But if you imagined all the particles, all the universe, were shrunk down so that they were just like that point particle, just one point. Say they exist, they get down to the tiniest, where they're just a point, they're still existing, but they have no dimension and no time. And then, for reasons we don't know, that thing that exists, that point particle, if you like, starts to expand, and as it expands, it creates space-time.
You just repeated yourself, didn't you?
No,
Everything you said, I heard it before, right here in front of me.
well, no, you didn't.
Maybe you lost, I don't know, maybe it's a memory. Yes, I understood what you said.
Okay.
But you
so
see this
what's
point?
wrong with- no, that's okay. So what's wrong with this?
Yeah, I'm telling you what's wrong with it.
Yeah, yeah,
This
go.
point, where does it exist?
But I've just answered that 6 times.
No, you didn't. You told me, wait a minute, you made 2 points.
Where is 6 inches along the
Hold on,
road?
let me have a word in between, okay? Yes, exactly.
I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, what I'm telling you is that you said if you actually contract everything, all the space in the universe
Yeah.
to one point,
Yeah.
that point is still somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, no.
No? Why not?
Well-
So where is it? How would you know the point even exists then?
That is actually a very good question.
Yes.
And I've
asked you this. I've asked you how many times I've asked you this question now? This question I've asked you several times now,
okay.
because you keep repeating yourself without understanding what I'm asking you. Maybe that's the problem here. So once again,
Yeah.
this point, does it exist somewhere?
I see what you mean.
Wait 1 second.
Well,
Okay,
I've
okay, wait a
asked
minute.
this of
Does this
physicists, and
point
this is what we
exist
say.
somewhere? Yes or no?
Oh no, yes, it exists. Yes. Yeah, that's
Somewhere.
what
No. I
it
didn't
is.
ask if it exists.
All right.
I asked you, does it exist in some space?
Now, that's a good question. And is the difference between space and space
Habibi,
time.
sabr. Yes.
But
Inna Allah ma sabirin. If you let me finish my point, I'll let you. Just give me 1
You
minute.
used to interrupt,
if you mean by space,
When I'm talking to someone, don't interrupt.
Okay, go on, ask your question, brother. I don't want to make you upset.
You're talking about measurement. You talk about 6 inch.
such I missed the last question.
You're talking about, you mentioned analogy,
Yeah,
a ruler, and 6
Yeah.
inches.
yeah,
Who is a measurer? You're talking about from 1 to 6.
yeah.
How do you reach from 1 to 6 without direction? I'm asking you. That's a question.
Maybe I haven't explained it properly, but
Not explain properly. How do
Okay.
you do this? That's direction from 1 to 6.
Hey, it was an analogy. Okay. What he gave me is an analogy. He gave me an analogy of a ruler which is normally 12 inches. He brought it to the middle, which is 6 inches. And he says, let's talk about only this bit. And then he says, imagine the whole universe it contracted to just one space, one tiny spot, which has no dimension. But the point is, does this point exist somewhere?
It just exists at one single point.
Yes, which is space.
You could say, that's what you mean by, that depends what you mean by space,
Well, if you don't-
as separate from space-time. If you just think of space as nothingness, I suppose, yes.
No.
it
Space
exists
is
in
not nothingness. I don't say
It
space
is.
is nothingness.
I do,
Really? You think space is nothing?
yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. Space-time and space are different. This is an answer from a physicist, so I can...
You're saying space is nothing.
different from space-time, yeah. You know, there's a big question of, you know that the universe is expanding.
Hello, are you saying space is nothing? Seriously?
Yes.
So space has got nothing in it.
It is. From 1 to 6 is space.
Yes.
Habibi.
From 1 to 6
One
is
second.
space.
We have moved from the 6 inches. We have moved away. It was a very bad analogy.
It was a good analogy.
It was a very bad analogy, but
No, you keep saying the thing.
It was.
That was bad. You're not the
Why are you getting upset?
authority
Calm
here.
down.
You're not.
Calm
the
down. Don't get
authority.
upset, my friend.
I don't mind what you say. You can knock down my ideas. I don't mind.
your analogy was bad in the sense that
Don't say
you were
it in the
defining
sense-
space in order to prove there is no space. You see what I mean? That's why it was a very bad analogy. And like the brother pointed out, where's he gone? He was trying to tell you that this is space you're talking about. Okay. So what I'm saying is this. If you think the singularity exists without space, then you really have to ask yourself, why call it a singularity? Unless you're talking about nothing. Are you talking about nothing?
It exists. No, it's not nothing.
So it is something, right?
It's something, and it exists within
Within
infinite amount of nothingness, as it were.
infinite amount of nothingness. Let's define nothing. Go on. Let's see that. Let's define nothing. Come on.
As it spreads out,
What is nothing? Define nothing for me. I really want to know what infinite amount of nothingness is.
as it spreads out,
No, what is nothing?
nothing is the opposite of something. There's nothing. Zero.
Zero. Okay, you know what? Even zero is something, but that is abstract.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'll define nothing. You tell me if my definition is correct.
right.
Nothing is the absence of everything. Is that good?
Yes.
Good?
Yeah,
So
the
there's no such
absence
thing.
of things.
There's no such thing as infinite number of nothing. Nothing is nothing. Nothing, zilch.
Yes, if you like.
Okay?
Yes,
So what I'm saying is this, even your singularity has to exist in space.
Well, this is, you say that it has to, as if you're sort of authority and knew this, but
I don't need to be an authority. I want to ask you, you kept saying it's a good question, good question.
Yes.
I am still waiting for a good answer.
know.
Does singularity exist in space?
you know, that's 'cause
Based on
people-
your own analogy of the ruler, does it exist in space?
Okay, can I put it this way?
Yeah, go on.
You know, the universe is kind of expanding. I think most people
Yeah, but
think
that is later on, my friend. That's fast forwarding
later. What does it expand into?
into space.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So, and what do you mean? What is space? What is the space that it's expanding?
Actually,
into?
this expansion defines space. You see what I mean?
No. Well, there's
Is
kind
it- is
of
it in-
two theories about this?
So what is it expanding into then?
Yeah. It's expanding into not space-time is expanding into space. Now,
That doesn't even
that's
make
an
sense.
It is. It does, and I got that from a very.
Okay, so how does it make sense to you? Go on, tell me. If there is no space to begin with, no time to begin with,
No.
then where is this singularity located?
It's located. The idea of what it expands into is a kind of difficult question, which I was trying to say to you. But we could call that space, for want of a
That-
better word.
Actually, space expands into space.
No, space-time expands into space.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, right? You're talking about, when you talk about time, all right? When you talk about time, yes, a time is a concept.
No, it isn't. You see.
Time is not a concept. What, you can feel time?
No.
You can touch time?
Time is a dimension of the universe.
It's a concept. It's how you measure things from point A to point B going.
That's what you would think, and that's what, you know.
Okay, anyway, look,
time is think.
besides the definition, we both know what time is, okay? But
We don't. This is the whole point of
we don't know what time is?
You have a concept of time, and it's just a click.
That's what I've been telling you all along. It's a concept, it's a concept. You keep agreeing with me.
Get to the full stop in my first sentence.
No. What you really have to
I was going to say.
No. I'm sorry. We have sidetracked again for the 10th time.